Hi, welcome to Straight Talk. There's two things we can all learn more about, and that's our financial literacy and healthcare. And today on Straight Talk, we're going to spend time on both of those issues, and I think we can all learn something. So pay attention, get that pencil and paper out, and you're going to learn a lot about two amazing agencies. Starting off is an organization which I just love the name. They work in the area of financial literacy, and their name is MakingChange, which is just perfect. I just love that name. And joining me is Jasmine Brewer, who's the executive director of MakingChange Incorporated. Jasmine, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Mike.
How'd you come up with that name?
You know, that name was actually established many years before I came on board. But you're absolutely correct. It makes sense and totally aligns with the mission and the goal for the organization, which is to really help the community, the Howard County community, and as we'll be expanding into other areas, really address financial challenges that they might be having and understanding their financial status a bit more to help them work towards their goals.
So tell me a little bit about all the little things that you do, because right now you're in Howard County, and you said you let that out that you're going to be expanding, and we'll hear all about that in a few minutes. But kind of give me the overview of MakingChange.
Sure. So the organization was originally founded in 1991 and really founded under the premise and mission at that time to help residents address their financial challenges, and specifically with credit issues. So there are several agencies that still work directly with creditors on behalf of clients. And as the agency continued to grow over the years, there was a need that we noticed to expand what those services look like. So in 2019, the agency became a HUD certified agency, which means that we have the certification under the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to be able to provide these services, and confirmation that we're following that curriculum. That's over 1,700 agencies across the country follow as well. Our mission is really driven towards providing pathways to enhance lives through financial education and services. So the services that we provide include rental counseling, pre-purchase counseling for those who might be interested in buying a home. We provide a free tax service during tax season. It's called the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, also known as VITA. That's sponsored through the IRS, where we partner with the IRS as well as Cash Campaign of Maryland to deliver that service for free. It's no charge to the clients that come to us. And of course, inclusive in that is also counseling for credit and debt management, as well as just financial counseling and coaching, which can really be a challenge for some clients who aren't sure. You know, it's one of those things, and I hope we'll talk about it a little later, where there's no foundation that some clients are given, even from being a young adult, a youth, to be able to have a foundation of understanding, well, what is a budget and how do I use it? So that's really what the organization is driven and working towards providing, making sure that there's more access to other clients and residents that aren't aware of it.
I used to run a conference for high school athletes, and one of the workshops we always did was financial fitness. And what we learned was that these high school kids, they didn't know how to open up a bank account. They didn't know about writing a check. They didn't know about getting a loan. And a lot of these athletes may end up making a lot of money. There were some pretty good athletes, but it was fascinating what they didn't know, their illiteracy about financial information. They had no idea. So we made it part of the workshop. You mentioned that you work with young people too.
Absolutely. And it's so funny you bring up that example. I have my son who is an aspiring athlete. He's just finishing up his first year of college. And even, of course, when it's your parents, you're like, do I really need to listen to this? So I think about that whenever we're starting to work with young people, to be able to provide them some of these resources. And again, those foundational tools for them to understand, well, why do I need a budget? What is a budget? How will I use this? What if I don't have an income? And so what Making Change is looking to do, we have expanded in the last year our reach to young adults, as well as youth from the ages of about 12 to 17. In some instances, we've worked with younger groups, depending upon the preference or recommendation from a group for us to work with those age groups. But to really provide that financial foundation that's really missing. We just had over the weekend on Saturday, April 2nd in Howard County, an event that was called Passports of Financial Literacy. And what that event did, it was in collaboration with Junior Achievement of Central Maryland. It included about 10 different stations that those youth had to come in and make different financial decisions. And it's funny because during that event, some of the youth I would walk up to and they were so frustrated. Oh my gosh, well, I can't afford it. And now what do I do? Well, then you have to look at, well, what else is available in your budget? And what else could you afford to do in place of those things that you might want to do? And which leads us to the conversation of wants versus needs. Do you need it or do you want it? So it's definitely eye-opening to the young people that we're working with, and it's really become more of a pattern and something that we're being intentionally inclusive of in our curriculum development and delivery to the community.
That is so important. Again, like you said, the earlier the better. One of the things that's really confusing to the adults, and you mentioned this in your opening, was the issue of purchasing a home. And how do you go about that process? Because now you're talking about big dollars, and big loans and interest rates and all the things that are very confusing. Do you provide that kind of help for somebody who says, hey, I want to buy a home. Can you help me figure out my finances to see if I can even do it?
Absolutely. So we do provide, it's been on average about every other month that we offer a free homebuyer education course for those who are interested in just learning more about the homeownership process. And it's different for every HUD certified agency. Some agencies do charge a fee. Making Change does not. It is completely free to any of the participants that decide they want to work with us. And because we're still in COVID, we are offering that via Zoom virtually. So it's a 2-part series where individuals can participate. That includes 4 parts that include affordability and budgeting, credit and consumer protection, mortgage products, as well as working with a realtor and trying to understand what type of home is it that you're looking for. And all of the pieces that come with that, a home inspection and home appraisal, all of the pieces that go into the home ownership. So we walk you through that. It's a 6 to 8 hour course. So once we do get back in person, we will have to do that for 6 to 8 hours in one sitting. But it's a lot of important information that it's important for potential and future home buyers to really know about.
It's really one of those things that, in the old days, the grandfather passed it on to the father and the father to the son. And how do you buy a house? How do you open up a bank account? And I remember, going to the bank and getting a little bank book years ago.
Yes.
It can be a real thrill, but again, it's something that unless there's an agency like you making change, and we are talking with Jasmine Brewer, who is the executive director of Making Change Incorporated. And it just sounds like the workshops you talked about expanding. So the more workshops you can do and the more areas, and you hit different topics, right? On what you're trying to talk about.
Absolutely. So there, of course, with that home buyer workshop, it's home buyer focus, and we've even started including professionals. It's professionals from the field outside of a counselor. Because let me be very clear, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, about 5 years ago at this point, maybe 4.5, they have now put a requirement on all HUD certified agencies to make sure that the counselors are actually HUD certified. So an agency is HUD approved, an individual is HUD certified, which only adds another layer of just confirmation that you know that the person that you're working with is a professional, the same as if you were working with a realtor or if you were working with a lender. So Making Change has these programs available, again, at no cost to the participant. We receive grants that allow us to provide these programs at no charge to those individuals. And outside of the homebuyer education, we also provide other workshops that specifically focus on budgeting, debt management, credit, renter. We know that that's a big issue right now, especially going through COVID, of just challenges that renters are having as well. And all of that information, we have it listed in terms of upcoming workshops on our website, which is makingchangecenter.org, under the upcoming events tab. So we definitely do our best to make sure that the community is updated about the services that we're offering.
I could talk with you all day. This is really so exciting. Making Change, Executive Director, Jasmine Brewer. Thank you so much for telling us so much about Making Change. And I'm hoping people, if they need your help and look for your workshops, they will. So Jasmine, thanks again for being on the show.
Thanks so much, Mike.
Sure. When we come back to Straight Talk, we're going to talk a lot about health with a very, I call them famous because they've been around for a long, long time, agency right in Baltimore. So stay with us. We're coming right back to Straight Talk.
I am so glad you ladies are here. You each have your own rooms.
Thank you.
Get settled in. I'll call you for dinner. Adopting teen sisters, it's a lot. Girls, you're gonna be late. You want breakfast?
No thanks, we're good.
They're always in their own world.
What'd you get there?
Twice the work. Twice the surprises.
Just try it.
But if you think of it that way, they're also twice as fulfilling.
I think you should ask her yourself.
Is it okay to call you Mom?
Of course you can.
It takes less than 1 minute to find out if you may have prediabetes. You can do it here. But you probably won't. You're busy. Kids, work, show coming back in 48 seconds. So let's do this now. Hold up one finger if you're a man, women, 0. 3 more fingers if you're over 60, 2 over 50, 1 over 40. If you're not sure, keep in mind you're sitting on a couch right now, so 1 more finger if you're not very active. 1 finger if yes, 0 if no. 1 yes, 0 no. Next, find the body type that looks most like you and hold up that many fingers while I look around awkwardly. And that's it. If you're holding up 5 fingers or more, you probably have prediabetes. Sorry to be so blunt, but hey, you're busy. Just go to the site.
In 4 days. There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children. She didn't know what to do.
Did you have a good day at school?
She gave them some broth. without any bread.
There you go.
And kiss them all soundly
Night night.
and put them to bed. Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org.
I'm Chris Jakovic. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakovic, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. My service never stops.
Hi, welcome back to Straight Talk. Probably the biggest issue we all have, I don't care how much money you make, where you live, is your health and healthcare coverage. And how do we take care of people, especially if they're sick or they're addicted, or they have other problems that just doesn't fit into a little box. We've got an organization in Baltimore. I'm going to find out how long. They have to have been around for over 50 years. I mean, or longer. Chase Brexton is just amazing. They've done incredible work for so many years with special populations. They were in the forefront of dealing with HIV/AIDS years ago. Terrific stuff. And we're really happy and excited to have Leah Hart, who is the Medical Director of Population Health at Chase Brexton Healthcare. So, Leah, I'm so glad you're on the show. I got so many questions.
Thanks so much. Glad to be here.
That's great. Well, for those that may not know about Chase Brexton, maybe a few, but give them an idea, an overview of kind of what you guys do.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for mentioning the history. Chase Brexton Healthcare is indeed a Baltimore institution. It was founded in 1978 specifically as a volunteer-run clinic, providing at that time specifically sexually transmitted infection testing, mostly for gay men, and was a safe haven for the LGBT community. So then when the 1980s brought the devastation of the HIV pandemic, Chase Brexton sort of by necessity became experts in HIV care, which at the time meant psychological and emotional support, given very few medical treatment options. And as treatment options for HIV expanded, so did the focus of the clinic. And eventually in 1999, Chase Brexton was the first historically LGBT serving clinic to become what's now a federally qualified health center, one of 6 in Baltimore City, one of 21 FQHC centers in Maryland. And now for those who are familiar with that history about Chase Brexton, you may be surprised to learn that we do see all ages now, kids, grandparents, pregnant people, the whole gambit. So we still do, have a special place in our hearts for the LGBTQ population. We have a health equity center led by Sam McClure and a gender joy program led by Elise Pine and Deb Dunn, and a brand new equity, diversity, and inclusion center of excellence led by Aya Schumann that we're very proud of.
Well, again, like you said, you've been around for a long time, and now it seems like you've blossomed into other areas to help the community, and that's terrific. And you should be certified by the Fed, because I hope they give you a lot of money. You certainly deserve it. And the way you've grown, you're a medical director. You look at things, from the medical perspective of what's going on in Baltimore. Is there any way to kind of sum up what are you seeing? Like you said, at the beginning, you were dealing with gay men, you were dealing with HIV, hepatitis. I mean, we've gone through. What are you seeing in our city that needs attention?
Absolutely. Thanks for that question. Baltimore is one of many places where you can sort of see through health inequities and health disparities, unfortunately, the outcome of what happens when systems over time are chronically and systematically causing a disinvestment in particular members of our community. So, housing redlining, transportation that's only accessible to some, education that's higher quality for certain groups. And of course, now we see as a result of that, health inequities such as our Black citizens of Baltimore being 84% more likely to be diabetic, or Black women who are pregnant being 2.5 times more likely to die as a result of their pregnancy in Baltimore City, and in Maryland writ large, along with infants who are 2.5 times more likely to die compared to their white non-Hispanic counterparts. So these and other tragic, stark differences are the result of the social determinants of health and the situation that has been generation upon generation passed along and systematically advantaged some and disadvantaged others.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and something. I mean, Baltimore has been called the melting pot because we do have so many different communities, different ethnicities in our city, and everyone needs some kind of help through all this. And we also have a very large addiction issue. What's Chase Brexton doing, or what are you seeing with the addiction? I mean, a lot of overdoses from fentanyl. We know that's going on.
Absolutely.
When it comes to HIV, when it comes to Hep C, how are we dealing with that?
Yeah. As overwhelming and impactful as the COVID pandemic has been, of course, in terms of health outcomes, opioid use disorders have continued to unfortunately take more Baltimoreans and Marylanders' lives over the course of the pandemic than COVID itself. So we should remember that is a very current and chronic issue for our citizens. Chase Brexton does have a substance use department, and we have therapy, counseling, and very importantly now, the medication-assisted treatment model that we know is critical to helping people maintain recovery. So we, as providers at Chase Brexton, are all required to have the ability to provide Suboxone to our patients, buprenorphine, and we're proud of that. So we make that part of our primary care. It's just part of what we do.
Yeah, that's terrific. I mean, everyone's wanting to expand, whether it's medical assisted treatment or whether something to be able to help people and break that cycle, which we're not doing. We need more, obviously need more help out there for people. Also, I find it's fascinating that hepatitis C, which is very common with addicts who are sharing needles, as well as people getting blood transfusions many years ago. And we have a cure. That's fascinating. It's so amazing to sit there and say, we've cured a disease in this country, but people need to talk to their doctor, get tested, something to be able to get the new medicine.
Yes, we do have within our population health department an effort to make sure that everyone who is eligible for screening, just based on sort of their birth date, having been alive during a time when there wasn't a treatment. And so healthcare related infections could occur. And now we have something we can do about it. So we really need to test everyone. We're systematically, we hope, catching everybody who we can to make sure that those who need treatment get access to it. And it's one of the greatest pleasures I have is continuing to have a panel of patients myself as a family nurse practitioner at Chase Brexton to be able to offer that service. And it's thanks in part to a partnership with the Sharing the Cure program that Johns Hopkins runs. It's a grant-based program to make sure that primary care providers can make sure that hepatitis C treatment is accessible, again, as just part of their practice under one roof. That's partly how the federally qualified health center model works. We are held to certain standards because we do get those federal dollars and subsidies that help us maintain services for the underserved and specifically uninsured patients, make sure that we can afford to do that with some federal subsidies. And so because of that, we're held to a pretty high standard of quality of care and also a model that offers many services under one roof. So not just medicine appointments, we have an OBGYN department, we have dental, we have mental health services, and pharmacy and laboratory, et cetera, all in one place so that people don't have to go various places and they don't have to go see a hepatologist or a hepatitis C specialist or a separate HIV specialist. We at Chase Brexton maintain our American Academy of HIV Medicine certifications and are doing full scope primary care plus these subspecialties as they come up.
Wow, you got a big job. The fact that you can smile means that you love what you do.
Absolutely. We do. It's a
Fascinating.
privilege to
Yeah.
serve the community.
One last thing on the hepatitis.
Yeah.
Anyone watching, we're not just talking about those that are or have been using needles. We're talking about those that got a blood transfusion. I think it was around 1974, somewhere in that area. If you got a blood transfusion before that, it wasn't checked for hepatitis.
Yeah. For one thing, there was no reason to because we couldn't do anything about it, as a healthcare system. But now that there's treatment, we certainly can.
So anybody that did get a blood transfusion back then should definitely get checked again by your doctor now that we have a kind of a painless cure.
Yes, thank you for that plug.
Yeah, it's just amazing. I love the, we always talk about, especially with COVID, the response of government and this and the health departments and all this. Well, they cured a disease that killed thousands of people a year. Fascinating. And hopefully we'll find more as time goes on.
Yes.
Where are you located?
We have multiple locations at this point. So downtown Baltimore, Mount Vernon, 1111 North Charles Street is our flagship center, and very accessible by several bus routes, which is helpful for patients. And then we have some county sites. So in Randallstown, in Glen Burnie, in Columbia, and we also serve Easton on the Eastern Shore.
Wow.
Yeah. And in addition to that, a student health center at the Maryland Institute College of Arts, MICA. A family nurse practitioner serves the students there as well.
Wow, that's wonderful. We only got 1 minute left. And I just, again, want to just thank you so much for all that you do. And I'm assuming COVID was a little tough for you too.
It was sure a test of all of our healthcare systems. We responded, and again, there were some federal subsidy dollars that allowed us to do this, but we became a testing center, we became a vaccination center, and my colleagues and I were really grateful to be in the position, having a primary care relationship with our patients to be able to advise on whether or not the vaccine was, safe and effective, which it is. And if you haven't gotten your booster yet, please schedule yourself for one at chasebrexton.org. So yeah, we were grateful to be, gainfully employed and part of the response and doing what we could.
And you did it. And again, you're out in the front lines and just doing the real work, the real difficult work. And I just hope that we can get the help for people who really need it, to get them off the streets, because really I believe that the crime issue has to do with helping people with medical problems and psychological problems if we're going to break that cycle of crime and violence, addiction, all that stuff. And what Chase Brexton does is just phenomenal. And like you said, you're an institution in the city. You should get all the money you need to do your job. And I want to thank you so much.
Thank you
for being on the show and really giving us a good perspective on what you really do out there and how much work. So be well, stay well.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
It's our pleasure. Thank you. Today on Straight Talk, we're learning about financial issues. We're learning about health issues. And it's so great to know that Baltimore and the Baltimore region has amazing programs. And all you have to do is get in touch with them. So I want to thank my guests. Thank you for watching Straight Talk, and we'll see you next time.